Welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, helping you prepare for the PMP exam. Here's your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner.
Hello and welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, where you can study anywhere and anytime for your PMP exam. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner. In this lesson, we are going to review, as the title of the lesson suggests, the RAM, which is the Responsibility Assignment Matrix. We want to take a look at additional roles and responsibilities documents and how they influence our project, and we want to talk about the RBS as well, which is the Resource Breakdown Structure. The first of the three documents we want to look at is the RAM, the Responsibility Assignment Matrix, which is a structure that relates the project's organizational breakdown structure to the work breakdown structure to help ensure that each component of the project's scope of work is actually assigned to a person on your team. And what does the Responsibility Assignment Matrix provide to our project? Well, at a high level, an RAM can define what a project team group or unit is responsible for within each component of the work breakdown structure, while a lower level RAM is often used within the group to designate roles and responsibility and levels of authority, either on specific WBS work packages or on specific activities. In other words, the Responsibility Assignment Matrix shows who needs to contribute what for our project to be completed successfully. On larger projects, these Responsibility Assignment Matrices can be developed at various levels, and sometimes the Responsibility Assignment Matrix associates individuals, that's people, with specific deliverables or tasks. The matrix shows all activities that are associated with one person and, of course, all people that are associated with one activity, depending on how you sort it. The Responsibility Assignment Matrix ensures that there is only one person accountable for any task, which avoids confusion. One good example of a Responsibility Assignment Matrix is the RACI chart, which stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consult, and Inform. We'll see an example of this later on. This RACI chart is defined in the PMBOK guide as a common type of responsibility assignment matrix that uses responsible, accountable, consult, and inform statuses to define the involvement of stakeholders in project activities. And here is an example of such a RACI chart. In essence, well, it's nothing but a table. It's a matrix where R stands for responsible, A stands for accountable, C designates consulting, and I signifies information that needs to be provided. As you can see in this matrix here, we have Sam, who is responsible for planning and consults for distribution. You have Sue, who is accountable for planning and development. You have Frank, who provides consultation input in planning and is responsible for design. And finally, we have Peter, who provides information for planning and design activities. Horizontally, you see exactly who does what in which activity, and vertically, top down, you can see exactly which activities an individual is going to be involved in. A RACI chart is very useful when the team consists of internal and external resources, as it ensures clear divisions of roles and expectations. And I actually used a RACI chart at one point to get a point across to one of my bosses. He was kind of a micromanager there. And one of the lines in our RACI chart, plan, develop, design, distribute, and below that, micromanagement. And Ted was responsible for that. My boss, Ted, at the time. He got the point. He thought it was very funny. Alright, so much for the responsibility assignment matrix and the RACI chart, which is a common way of showing such an RAM. We're now moving on to the roles and responsibilities documents. And to do this, we have to move over to the Plan Human Resource Management process. And in this process, we have the Human Resource Management Plan as an output. In fact, it's the only output from this particular process. And within this plan, we are going to be describing roles and responsibilities on our project. This is done in text-oriented formats where we just simply take a text document and describe roles and responsibilities of resources, usually resource types and resource categories on our project. Let's delve deeper into what we describe here. So for each resource type or resource category on our project, we are going to want to create such a roles and responsibilities document. And there are 4 types of information that you want to include in such a document. First of all, you want to describe the position. Give a name to the role that this position has, for instance, business analyst or engineer. Then talk about power, influence, and authority. Describe the weight that this position has. Remember that everyone on your project has authority. Some have more authority, some have less. A designer has the authority to work on or even change the design. Someone in your marketing team has the authority to define the marketing approach. Make sure that you define this weight for everyone, but also make sure that you match the authority with the appropriate responsibility. By the way, according to the PMBOK guide, authority means the right to apply project resources, expend funds, and make decisions or give approval. You also want to talk about accountability and responsibility when you are describing a role and its responsibilities. Here, we describe what activities this role is responsible for. And of course, we have to discuss skills and competency. Describe what type of skill a person needs to fulfill this role. Okay, to repeat, in the roles and responsibilities document, you define the role, authority, responsibility, and competency that a person has or needs in order to fulfill the role. It's important that you are able to distinguish these 4 items for the exam. One very common example of a roles and responsibilities document that everyone has seen is, of course, a job description. A job description usually contains a summary of the position and then a list of specific responsibilities of that particular position, like a column in a RACI chart. Just look at the column of the person in a RACI chart, and wherever there is an R, an A, a C, or an I, this is what the roles and responsibilities document will talk about. And finally, we have the RBS, the Resource Breakdown Structure, which, according to the PMBOK guide, is a hierarchical representation of resources by category and type. But before we move on, RBS, by the way, is a shared abbreviation for both the Resource Breakdown Structure and the Risk Breakdown Structure. In fact, this shared abbreviation of RBS has been a years-long battle between human resources groups who want RBS to stand for Resource Breakdown Structure and risk groups who want RBS to stand for Risk Breakdown Structure. Each wants to claim RBS as their own abbreviation for their tool. Well, in the end, we project managers, you and I out in the field, what do? Well, we use RBS for both. We'll get back to this at the end. Okay, so what is a resource breakdown structure? Well, it is a tool that is often implemented by the project management team or its leader, well, the project manager. It provides a hierarchical structure and identifies resources by type of resource and category of the resource. It is used in resource leveling schedules and to develop resource limited schedules, which may be used to identify and analyze project human resource assignments. In essence, when you look at your company, you will see that in every one of those boxes in your organizational chart, there is usually a name. Now, let's group these names together. Everybody who's in marketing team, well, let's group the 5 people who are marketing associates as marketing associates and take 5 boxes and put it back together as one. So instead of having individual names, we have categories of resources that we include in the RBS. And here's the beauty of this. If you use software to create your resource breakdown structure and your WBS, and this software is integrated, you can probably press a button and out comes a responsibility assignment matrix based on the type and category of resources you have on your project. So you know exactly what the marketing assistants are responsible for, what the engineers are responsible for, and what the testers are responsible for. Not like in our example that we saw previously where we had Joe, Susan, and Peter. Here we would have the various types and categories. The resource breakdown structure, by the way, is a hierarchical type organizational chart. That's its official definition, hierarchical type organizational chart. But like I tried to explain on the previous slide, it's different than your organizational breakdown structure. Your organizational breakdown structure starts with your CEO at the top and goes all the way down to you and shows also the people who are below you in the organizational structure, whereas the resource breakdown structure again shows the resources on your project by type and category, not the individual person. Well, and what does the RBS help us do on our project? Well, the resource breakdown structure standardizes the project's personnel resources to facilitate planning and controlling of our project work. It defines assignable resources like personnel from a functional point of view or equipment, and it identifies who is going to do the work. And the who, again, not the individual person, but the type or category of resource that you are going to need to do this work. So you can identify the categories, the types of resources that need to be brought onto your project. And that's it for the overview of the resource breakdown structure, the third document we wanted to review in this presentation. So let's review, and let's review here in a table form, beginning with the purpose of these 3 documents. In regards to the purpose, the responsibility assignment matrix allows you to give clear assignments to the people on your project. The roles and responsibilities documents are typically text-based documents that have a job description for each and everyone on the project. And the resource breakdown structure identifies the available resources on your project by type or category. In terms of creation, they are created in either the Plan Human Resource Management or the Acquire Project Team process. And some of the features of these 3, the resource assignment matrix allows you to relate your work breakdown structure to the organizational breakdown structure. The roles and responsibilities documents, well, they document your different job roles and your different job tasks on the project. And the resource breakdown structure is, of course, a hierarchical structure of your resources by category and by type. And this concludes our overview of the responsibility assignment matrix, the roles and responsibilities documents, and the resource breakdown structure. So what type of questions do you find in books and online? Well, we have two for you here. The first one is the RAM, the Responsibility Assignment Matrix, is best described as what type of tool and technique? Is it A, an organizational chart, B, a hierarchical chart, C, is it a text-oriented document, or is it D, a matrix-based chart? I'll give you a second here to think about this. The answer is, of course, D. It is a matrix-based chart. If you think back to our RACI chart, it was a table, it was in a matrix form. Therefore, the RAM, with the RACI being one example of it, is a matrix-based chart. And talking about the RACI chart, here is our second sample exam question for you. The RACI is a type of responsibility assignment matrix. What do each of the letters represent? Do you still remember? We looked at them just a while ago. Is it A, resource, activity, consult, identify? Is it B, responsible action, category, and inform? Is it C, resource, assign, consult, identify? Or is it D, responsible, accountable, consult, and inform? The answer is, of course, it is D. RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consult, and inform. It's just one of those things you have to know for the exam. And before we go, here's a quick exam tip for you. We want to come back to the discussion about now, what does RBS exactly stand for? Well, on the PMP exam, you may encounter the abbreviation RBS, and the PMBOK guide uses this abbreviation interchangeably between resource breakdown structure and risk breakdown structure. And many students ask, but what if I see RBS? What does it mean? How can I possibly know? Well, first of all, here's what Kevin Riley, a good friend of mine and also PMP teacher, always said. To answer any RBS questions, you have to RTFQ. You have to read the full question. Then you have to read the full answer. And by reading the full question and by reading the full answer, you will understand the context in which the RBS abbreviation stands. If the question is about human resources, it's obvious RBS stands for resource breakdown structure. If the question and the answers are all about risk management, well, RBS stands for risk breakdown structure. So the only way to know what RBS stands for is you have to use your brain. Also remember, PMI is not going to try and trick you on the PMP exam. That would be far below them, frankly. If RBS is used as an abbreviation in one of the questions, it's either also there in the long form, so resource breakdown structure and in brackets RBS, or the question itself makes it so obvious that RBS stands for risk breakdown structure that explanations are not needed. So RTFQ, RTFA, understand the context in which it is used and use your brain, and it'll be very easy for you to figure out what RBS actually stands for. And this concludes our look at the Responsibility Assignment Matrix, the Roles and Responsibilities documents, and the Resource Breakdown Structure. So it's time for Justine to say,
Don't be a stranger.
And of course I say, until next time.